Just when you think you've stuffed NC State stuff, NC State stuff stuffs harder than it's ever stuffed before.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Wolfpack, free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 back if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Typically, I would say happy Wednesday, but it is not one of those. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. It is Wednesday. The sun did come up today, despite all of the events that took place on Tuesday. If you can read Kenton's sign, you understand what we're talking about. You know why we're here.
Yeah.
Sophomore quarterback MJ Morris has decided to redshirt the remainder of the 2023 season. Here with just 3 games left, we sit at a 6-3 record. We will not see MJ again this season. Brennan Armstrong will take back over QB1 responsibilities. Oh boy, Twitter was an absolute war zone on Tuesday, understandably so. So Kenton, let's do our best to make sense of the situation here. How do we begin this?
I don't want to make sense of anything. I asked for my privacy to be respected. I did not come on there to talk. Women's basketball just dominated Charlotte. We ain't seen a Charlotte get beat on like that since. Never mind. We're not going to talk about Charlotte's Web. That book is kind of unimportant right now. But this is tough. This is tough, and I think the best place to start is where it all started. How did we get here? I think that's a fair place to start this thing off. And in my personal opinion, I believe that the first thing that the first domino to fall that led us here was not only bringing in Brennan Armstrong, but I think the lack of competition. Yeah. The lack of a competition there, a true competition where both parties had an equal chance to go out there and be the guy. It was a bad setup from the start because, as I said in the preseason, which I stood by the entire time, if there's a true competition and Brennan just looks better, let him be the starter. If not, ball cap and the clipboard and let him do it. But I don't feel like that ever really happened, which then kind of trickled down into more things and more things and more things to where, guys on the team are liking tweets that are denigrating or speaking negatively of Brennan's abilities. And even going before that, the quote from Dave Doeren, we're not playing the best guy, we're playing the most experienced guy. Like, my brother in Christ, and I'm going to touch your shoulder when I say this. I know I haven't done this in a while, but I'm going to touch your shoulder when I say this. Don't you ever say something like that again in your life, David. What are we doing? I'm going to call you David right now because you need to be called David. You need to know this is serious. Why? For what reason? You're making big boy money, brother. Your kids don't have to work if they don't choose to because of this thing. You play the best guy. You play the guy that gives you the best shot at winning and leave it at that. But then, obviously going forward, because of that, you have the questions about, man, how different would this game have been? How different would this have been? And all of a sudden, you're seeing a situation where we have the potential to do something that NC State has only done, one other time in NC State history in terms of 10 wins? And yet we have our starting quarterback redshirt. It's just a very nasty scene.
That point right there is one of my biggest frustrations. I'll get into more of that in just a moment here. But yeah, this did begin back in January when we decided to have Brennan join the team. Now, again, on paper, I still, to this day, I think it made sense. You had to go out and get an experienced quarterback to back up. The funny part about all of this, and maybe I'm skipping around here, even if MJ decides to stay, that cycle is going to repeat again this offseason. We're going to have to go get another quarterback out of the portal.
I disagree. If MJ stays, he has to be the guy. Like there has to be.
Sure, but you still have to go get a guy to back up him in that event, because I don't think Cedric Bailey coming in next year, I don't think he's ready to even be QB2. I think he's still going to be a work in progress when he gets here. So you're going to have to pick up somebody with some sort of significant experience to, at the very minimum, be QB2.
Well, all I'm going to say is this. Every time we got a guy with the last name Thomas on this roster, they find a way to outperform what everyone expects of them every single time. Every time we're like, oh, he's going to be good. Turns out he's one of the best linebackers in the ACC. Oh, who's this scrawny walk-on, this baseball kid? Record books all over it. So all I'm saying is we're overlooking little Lex back there, but Lex Luger said he got something for you.
There is a Lex Thomas lurking in the shadows. I saw Thayer Thomas's tweet on Tuesday in response to a Carolina fan saying, be careful what you wish for, as he sort of made a joke that Lex would be next in line. But regardless here, I do believe whether MJ stays or goes when it's all said and done, you're going to have to repeat this cycle on some level again. And so how we got here is going to, I believe, get even increasingly more frustrating as this continues to play out. And the decision to start Brennan at the beginning of this year ended up not going the way that anyone wanted to, team included, Brennan included. When you made that switch to MJ coming into that Marshall game, that needed to be it. A couple people kind of have the idea like, well, what if MJ doesn't produce at that level? Do you entertain the idea of going back to Brennan? And every single time we said no. MJ should be the guy here. And all the experience that he gets from this year, and I guess that's now out the window, it was going to help him moving into next year. And so this is so frustrating to then have him step out now with just 3 games left. We still have a chance, and I know the math is slim, we can still mathematically make the ACC championship game. And we're now making this move. You're making such a massive decision here with potential humongous implications. And that is like mind-bogglingly frustrating because you just got 2 great wins to build momentum. You beat Clemson and you beat Miami. Suddenly everybody's feeling a whole lot better about the season. And then wham, a sledgehammer hits us all in the face on Tuesday.
I mean, I agree. It's a monumentous decision, honestly and truly. It really is in this moment to, make the decision to step away in redshirt, or not step away, but because I haven't heard anything about, oh, he's no longer practicing and all that. I haven't heard anything like that. But to redshirt at this point in time, that's really tough. And looking at this, I'll simply say, the best case scenario of this for the Wolfpack is MJ comes back next year. He stays healthy. He plays amazing, does all the things that we believe he can do. And, he has a better supporting cast around. The offensive line gets healthy because they had some year-ending injuries to guys who were in the 2 deep before the season even started. And the receiving core, I mean, let's just be honest, has left a lot to be desired. The underutilization of the tight ends has left a gap the size of the Grand Canyon to be desired. And so the hope and idea here is, hey, when MJ comes back, best case scenario, of course, because worst case scenario is he leaves, of course. And, we're back at square one in terms of quarterback, because even if we do go into the portal, how portal quarterback can you pull? What is the ceiling? Who's the best guy that's going to be available? And even then, I mean, how often have we seen portal quarterbacks come in year 1 set the world ablaze? It's a moment where best case scenario, he comes back, this is all like a distant memory, feels like a fever dream because we're doing so well next season offensively. Worst case scenario, he moves on and we're back to square one at quarterback, basically. The quarterback carousel for NC State could continue, or it could land back with MJ being the guy. His father said he's not leaving, and if Doeren wants to have him back and he wants to come back, by all means, I'm not against it at all.
Obviously, a lot more of this discussion to continue here in just a couple minutes, but first, a quick word from our sponsors. Our first sponsor of the day is PrizePicks. PrizePicks is simply the most fun you can have this fantasy football and now basketball season. With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. So, for example, you can choose LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions. If you want to play alongside PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Scholes, you can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app. You can view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePick community every single week. PrizePicks also offers the reboot policy. Your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exited in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. Testing your skills on PrizePicks this season is the most exciting way to turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. We're back here still discussing the MJ Morris redshirting decision. Before we went into break, Kenton, you started talking about best case and worst case in regards to this scenario here. And I saw a good point from Joe Giglio in which I don't entirely agree, but I do think there's a lot of truth in that. I think if you make this move at this point in the season to preserve your eligibility after everything that's happened this year and all the discussions that led into this season, that to me feels like he probably will not stay here at NC State. I'll also say this. For this to come out in the way that it did, I would have much preferred this to come out of Dave Doeren's mouth. I don't know why this kind of matriculated out onto social media on Tuesday when I think Dave Doeren should have been the one to effectively break this news, probably in his Monday availability. For the rumors to be flying left and right on Twitter, and then all of a sudden everyone's going after MJ and his family, which that also needs to stop. That's a bad look for everyone involved, the fan base. It puts his family in a bad spot. Just don't do it. Just refrain, please. This needed to come from the coaching staff. They should have been the ones to get out in front of this whole thing, because now, for lack of a better term, you have a war zone now on social media with no word from the coaching staff. You got, again, like I mentioned, people going after MJ, people going after his family. There is speculation. There's rumor. It's chaos. There's still 3 games left in the season. We still have 3 massive games left on this schedule here. We got to go to Winston-Salem in 3 days. And you just got momentum built off of 2 wins. You're trying to potentially get to 10 wins here. And you have a nuclear bomb go off in the middle of the week. That is so unbelievably frustrating, because it's like, how on earth do you keep this team focused? I mean, you got to do an elite job of shutting out the noise for the rest of this week to keep everyone on task, because it is just absolute chaos leading into your last 3 games of the season here. In terms of MJ coming back now, I think to a certain extent, I think some bridges were, I won't necessarily say burned, but they were probably singed on Tuesday. I think for him to now come back after all of this mess that happened on Twitter, I don't know. I think it's probably awkward for him. It's going to be awkward for his family. It's awkward for the team. It's awkward for the fan base. And let me be clear about that. I want him here because he is our quarterback. He should be our quarterback. And the last 2 years effectively have been angled toward building around him being here in Raleigh. So for that to now get leveled would be unbelievably frustrating. We want to keep him here in Raleigh. I think that is probably why everyone is so irritated, because it's like we believed in you. Like, how could this happen? How does this keep happening to us? And so, I mean, where we go from here, we don't know. Of course, his dad mentioned that he's not leaving. I don't know, man. In the land of NIL and transfer portal, I take everything with a grain of salt here. I'm not exactly sold on that idea at this current time.
Blame the coaching staff. I mean, with all due respect, I don't know why people are. The thing is this, right? This isn't the first time the rumors have swirled about whether or not MJ was leaving. And the first time it was because what? Brennan Armstrong is here now and he doesn't want to wait, whatever the case may be. And now it's like, well, he was the starter, then he was the starter, then he wasn't the starter, and he was going to redshirt, and then he was the starter, and now he's going to what are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't think it takes an analyst to see that MJ Morris put this team in a better position to win ball games. I don't think it takes a rocket science to figure that one out.
They say love covers over a multitude of sins. Well, in sports, winning covers over even more. If MJ comes back, he balls out, and he wins, who's going to say anything?
Yeah.
Oh, you redshirted, you punted a season. And here's the other thing. Not just if MJ comes back and wins, if we win this season with Brennan, it's just a gut punch, man. It really is. It's one of those moments where you're looking up and MJ's mom said, hey, a lot of folks are talking a lot without knowing all the information and all that. And honestly, moments like this, I understand why folks withhold certain information, but in a moment like this, providing the most clarity possible by all parties, like you said, if the coaches would have come out with it, they could have had a controlled burn here. They could have lied and said, oh, he's injured or he's hurt or whatever the case may be. Oh, he's got a rib thing. He's got a knee thing. He's got a whatever thing going on. We're going redshirt. Okay. Wolfpack Nation would have been like, oh, no, he's hurt. Yikes. But nobody would have been, oh, my God, he doesn't want to be here. He's a quitter, yada, yada, all that good stuff. And it's very sad. You know what I mean? It's a very sad situation.
I should have asked you this a bit earlier, but I want to now put you into the locker room in a situation like this because you have been there. Now, of course, the transfer portal and NIL wasn't there when you were, but as a player in the locker room, how would you receive this sort of information for someone that's still fighting for this team right now? You still got 3 games on the schedule here. How would you perceive this information?
It's kind of hard for me to process that because for me personally, I believed it was I behaved like the winter soldier when it was time for me to play. You say the words and it's time for me to put on that metal arm and boot up. And so if I was in the locker room and this was announced, I don't care. I'm a defensive tackle. What does the quarterback have to do with me? It's my job to go out there and do the best I can by this defense. And if I'm on whatever special team, it's my job to go out there and do my best on field goal block or field goal protection or kickoff or kick return punt, whatever team I'm on, whatever unit I'm on, it's my job to go out there and do the best I can on. Obviously it's unfortunate. Obviously, you want your teammates with you. You want the guy who you think has the best chance at winning with you. But hey, next man up. It's just like if somebody was to get hurt or something like that. If one of your captains was to be out for the year with an injury, you wouldn't all of a sudden feel different about football, feel different about this moment, feel different about anything. You're still locked in on this is my task, this is my job. I've got to do what I got to do, and I don't think that should change for anybody.
Do you think it potentially has a different feel because, well, I mean, there have been rumors about injury, but do you think it's a different feel that it's basically it's almost like quiet quitting in a sense? Do you think that has a different feel to it?
The reality is, I don't care if he quiet quits, loud quits, whatever. I wouldn't care if he raised the stink on Twitter and said, this is the worst coaching staff I've ever played under. I'm leaving, never coming back to Raleigh, whatever the case may be. I would not care. My job is my job. The standard is the standard. The goal is the goal. What changes about that because one player decided to be out? You must complete the mission. So then what are we talking about here? Yeah. That's what it is. That's, to me, you can't. Yes, you care for these guys. Yes, you like your teammates. Yeah, of course, you should do all those things. But at the end of the day, ball is put the damn ball down. Put it down. MJ Morris is my quarterback. Guess what? I still got to defeat a platform block. Brennan Armstrong is my quarterback. That platform didn't just become a reach block. Lex Thomas is our quarterback. That reach block didn't just turn into a pass set. I have to do my job regardless of what's going on the other side of the ball, regardless of what's happening with the man next to me. If the guy next to me gets hurt and is out for the season, I still have to show up and do everything I can to do my job to the best of my ability. And the minute that I can no longer do that, now I need to ask myself, do I belong on this field? Because, I mean, what, are you going to run your routes not as hard because Brennan Armstrong is your quarterback? This should be disheveling and noisy and chaotic for us. For the media, for the fans, for the families, it should be all those things. But for the players, tunnel vision. Do what you got to do. Do what you got to do. Lock in with the guys that are coming with you. And if you coming with me, then we rolling together. And that's just what we're going to do.
And in regards to some of the goals that this team can still hit here, we're going to be talking about what does this mean moving forward for the rest of the season after a quick word from our sponsor. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's right, $150 back if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. If you're going to be sweating out the total wins for NC State football, like some people named Grayson Boone on this podcast, you might also be on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel. Last couple minutes summarizing the MJ Morris redshirting decision here on this Wednesday. What does this mean moving forward, transitioning back to Brennan Armstrong at QB1? The offense, the defense, the momentum built. Where do you see this taking us here these final 3 weeks?
I mean, you got to lock in and use the phrase forget everybody but us. But the word forget is replaced with another F word that rhymes with Chuck. The reality is very simple. Lock in, clear the clutter, clear the noise. I mean, at the end of the day, do we all think that MJ Morris gave you the best opportunity to win? Yeah, sure. Not available anymore. What's next? Regardless of what's happening, regardless of if it's injury, regardless of whatever the case may be, lock in, do your job to the best of your ability. Trust your teammates to do their job to the best of their ability. Keep your head up. You have nothing to be sad about. You are on a 2-game winning streak against 2 of the teams that historically, I mean, they've been the class of the conference, if not the class of the entire nation at times. Lock in and do what you got to do. And that's all there is to it.
Our guy Trevor G actually tweeted us this, but the goal here remains unchanged. Whether you have MJ at quarterback, Brennan at quarterback, whether you have Caden Newton-Kester at quarterback, the goal has not changed. You still got 3 games left on this schedule that you have got to find a way to win. And that starts this week out in Winston-Salem. This season, despite the chaos that is now on Twitter that will likely remain through the rest of this season is still very much alive. Again, you can still mathematically get into the ACC championship, which is crazy to say at this point in the year, but it's there. You can win 10 football games this season. That is still there. It's on the table. You've got to find a way to keep the train on the tracks here, go into Winston, get the job done, whether it's Brennan or whoever at quarterback. The goal remains the goal. The standard is the standard. The season is not over. You're 6-3. You can finish 10-3 if you win out from here. Still very possible. Not just trying to sunshine pump here. It's real. This is real.
Yeah.
This is on the table. If we all quit now, then maybe we do end up at 6-6. If we implode now, maybe we do end up in a dumpster fire at the end of the season. That's real too. Kenton, you mentioned it. I certainly hope this team has the earmuffs on and they're blocking out all of the noise, because there's still a football season going on here and there are games to be won. So what does this mean moving forward? It certainly sucks. You thought MJ would be the guy the rest of this year and into the next couple years. That, I guess, will remain in a cloud of smoke, literally. But we got to put the ball down 4 more times this year. And that is really all that matters. Whether it's MJ next year or somebody in the portal, whatever. Life will go on. The sun's going to come up tomorrow, and NC State's got to find a way to win this week.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. 1,000% agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, at the end of the day, put the ball down. Put the ball down. Peyton Wilson is going to play with a put the ball down mentality. Davin Van's going to play with a put the ball down mentality. You know what these guys are going to give you. Aiden White is going to play with a put the ball down mentality. We need the offense to show up and give us something, and we'll be just fine in Winston-Salem. That is the most sacked team, or one of the most sacked teams in the nation, most sacked team in the ACC, lowest scoring offense in the ACC. Our defense is going to be our defense. We need our offense to show up and give us something, and we'll be just fine coming out of Winston with our first win in quite some time.
That'll do it for us here on Wednesday. Of course, nowhere near the end of all of these discussions. We'll continue this into Thursday, Friday, and beyond. But that'll do it for us here today. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in with us. Drop a like, drop your comments. Of course, there will be tons of comments, I'm assuming, as everyone has quite a spicy opinion on what's going on here with the MJ Morris drama. But be sure to get those in the comment box. Should have plenty to choose from for Fan Friday. And then, as always, mash that subscribe button as well. We will see you all on Thursday. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.